NYYST. This is New York, Yankee sports talk. Swinging for the fences, knock it out the park. This is New York, Yankee sports talk. Christian and Chris, of course SGR. This is New York, Yankee sports talk. Homie, New York, Yankee sports talk. Record, rain or shine, grab your shades and umbrellas. NYYST, you're hanging with the fellas.
Welcome back. This is episode 386 of the NYYST podcast. We are live. Say it again. Live on NYY Underground. It's been a while since we've been able to come here live on NYYU. I'm excited about tonight, and I'm your host, Christian, as always, joined by my co-host, Chris.
You
Had to amend the opening there. Okay. Scheduling conflicts. A lot of things going on. Well, we're back here live on NYYU. The Yanks just completed a sweep of the Detroit Tigers over the weekend here to get themselves over 10 games over 500 here on May 6th. But before we get into the Tiger series, we want you to subscribe to the NYYST podcast wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you're in the chat here live tonight. Smack the like, subscribe to NYYU. Get your tickets to NYYU Day 2, which is September 14th, out in right field. You'll be so close, you'll be able to smell Juan Soto, okay? You're going to get an NYYU/Yankees co-branded T-shirt with your ticket purchase. So we're looking forward to seeing everybody out there on September 14th. And make sure you tell everybody NYYST is the official Yankees podcast of Odyssey. It was we're feeling pretty low about the team coming off their series loss to Baltimore, and then they came home and they took care of business. I wouldn't say that they went out there and scored a bunch of runs. They scored timely runs. So it was a nice rebound series against a team that can really throw the ball in Detroit.
I mean, outside of the first game of the series, I mean, you were still, up until the ninth inning, you were still concerned, but I mean, given what we got in Baltimore, I'll take the second and third games of the series. I mean, I honestly, look, I think there's a lot to complain about despite being 10 games over 500, which sounds crazy, but I'm feeling pretty good right now. I feel like if you want to turn something into a positive, I feel like last year's team would have downward spiraled out of that Baltimore series and just let it linger. And I feel like this team twice now has shown me that they know how to stop the bleeding, even when things look really bad.
We were on our way for a very typical 2023 loss on Friday when the Yankees. Who started that game? I forget now. It was Stroman started the game. Stroman started the game. And the Yankees, he was going step for step with
Burns. No, so
Olsen. Olsen started for the Tigers. Tigers have really good starting pitching, so you knew this was going to be trouble for the Yankees, for a team that doesn't really score a ton of runs. And for the most part, the Yankees didn't break out. The Yankees got their hits when they needed to, and their pitching was better than Detroit's pitching, which is amazing. And let's just get Friday's game out of the way first, because then I do want to talk about the pitching before we break down the series here. Is the Yankees were on their way to a very 2023 loss. They're getting shut down, and then the one run that Detroit scores in the sixth inning, that was on a wild pitch or pass ball. I forget whatever it was now at this point. Or no, Stroman walked three straight batters, and he walked in a run. That's right. What happened. So, and that frustrated me there, because Boone's sitting there picking his nose, blowing bubble gum, while he can clearly see his starter lost command of the strike zone there. And instead of being proactive, he let him walk in a run there. After the game, Boone said, and it's true, Stroman does have the highest, or one of the highest, ground ball rates in baseball. Was looking for him to get somebody to put one on the ground. But you also had, and this is what we talk about Boone all the time, you got to read the room. Your guy clearly didn't have it, man. He clearly lost control. The plate was moving on him, and if you look at some of those pitches, they were non-competitive pitches. He didn't want to come over the plate. He didn't want to challenge anybody. He wanted you to swing at something in the dirt, and when the bases are loaded and you're and I think he was up in the count on some of these. You have to get a little closer to the plate than he did in some of these instances. So, but Giancarlo Stanton and Anthony Rizzo come through in the ninth inning there, and really Aaron Judge is the one that started the rally there. He got a single to get the rally going in the ninth inning, and then Giancarlo Stanton, who I thought we were going to kind of see the beginnings of another Stanton hot streak. The double in the ninth inning on Friday, and then it was the first inning, right? The first or the second, I forget now, man. I'm old, bro. I'm sorry, guys. I'm old. I forget things. I'm trying to. It was when did they score? It was in the first inning or the second inning?
The first.
Yeah. Okay. So Stan's double was in the first inning there. So he had back-to-back, just absolute seeds into the right field corner there to score runs. And I think Stanton's OPS with runners in scoring position is somewhere around 1100 this season.
It's really good.
Yeah. So, I mean, as much as we came on here last week and said you got to get him out of lineup, he's been productive in big at bats, which is nice to see, which I think you'll take that if he's wailing at pitches with nobody on and he's coming through with runners in scoring position. I think you'll take that. I think ultimately, though, the Yankees are going to have to look for an offensive upgrade somewhere. I'm just not really sure where it comes if Stan's healthy. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that they want to bench him if he's not injured, and especially if his runners in scoring position numbers are as high as they are.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. But yeah, so they win Friday, right? We wanted to wrap that up. Judge, it's at least in the making maybe that he's starting to find some open ground here, and even if it's singles, he had a home run, right, this series.
Had a home run Sunday. He started the game off with 2 hits on Saturday.
You'll take anything that I don't want to set the bar low for Aaron Judge, but I mean, he kind of did. You'll take anything you can get, any bit of positive, anything moving forward here, I'll take. Anything that looks like progress, I'll take. So he starts off the rally, which, people knock him a lot in the postseason, but we've said it a few times. In the postseason, yeah, maybe he hasn't come through with that big hit like you expect, but he has started a lot of rallies. And he did that this weekend. And then ultimately, I mean, you got to love Stanton there, like you said. And then Rizzo gets up and fucking gets the job done. And it doesn't seem like a big deal, but too many times does this team find itself in a situation that they did in that ninth inning. And even if they have the game tied like that, Rizzo gets up and strikes out. The next guy walks, then there's a double play, and the inning's over. So it was kind of a breath of fresh air. I think they did it all. They didn't even get an out. Detroit didn't even record an out, I don't believe. It was almost like the Yankees got up and said, fuck it, we're taking care of business, and it was nice to see.
Yeah, so the Yankees, like we said, they didn't score a ton of runs in this series. They scored runs when they needed to. Rizzo caps off a 4-run third inning with a 3-run home run, and they were able to ride that to victory. And again, dude, it's like, I don't want to make a big deal about it, but then again, the only time Clay Holmes pitched in the series, he got 4 outs. This was a week after we're told about pace management.
Yeah.
And now the last 3 times since Boone did that, he threw him in a game where the Yankees were trailing, which I am assuming the plan was to then use him in the ninth inning had the Yankees taken the lead. Then he used him for 5 outs, and then he used him for 4 outs. So it's just, that's what the frustrating thing is that the Yankees are not consistent in what, there's no consistency in between what they say and then what they do.
It's almost, there's no other way to put it, really. I mean, it's almost like Aaron Boone gets criticized for something, doubles down on it, then he'll realize how dumb it sounded, walk it back, and then he does the complete opposite. Almost to say, hey, well, you guys are crazy. I'll use him when I need to. And it's like, that's exactly what we saw. But I mean, for right now, I'll fucking take it.
Well, Tim in the chat said, or is it Tim who? Oh no, Steve. Steve in the chat says he likes Stan. Who are we getting to replace him? Jason Dominguez would probably be the guy at the top of the list here, right? I mean, I'm assuming I think that's a lot what a lot of Yankee fans are looking at is to try to figure out where we're going to slot Dominguez in to this lineup.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to even talk about Dominguez because the Yankees don't even have a timeline, and we don't even know if the Yankees are serious about rushing him back to the major leagues. I think they should.
Well, if the team's going to continue to play well, there's no need to rush him. But I think, and I tweeted this earlier, that the Yankees, despite their flaws, despite Judge's slow start, despite Gerrit Cole not pitching yet this year, they're 10 games over 500 right now on May 6th, which is you can't sneeze at that. That's a good accomplishment right there. They're winning despite some of the things that we don't like about this team. But at the end of the day, as you say, the goal is to win the World Series. So we're looking at a team not to be good in May. We're looking at a team to be the last team standing in October. So, yes, obviously you get there by having a good regular season, but we have to figure out how to get there. And I think the Yankees are going to need to get more offensive production out of their lineup than they have thus far. And in certain situations, I don't know if they're going to spend capital on acquiring a big bat when Dominguez and maybe Spencer Jones are going to be available to them to kind of spark the offense later in the year.
Yeah, two quick things. David, thanks for re-upping your membership. Anyone who wants to become a member of NYYU, we appreciate it. We always appreciate the support, especially from our boy Rob with the super chat. He said, Juan Soto's clutch gene ability is incredible. This dude wants the big moment. Cut that man a blank check. I mean, he's heading that way.
Yeah, so, the Yankees, and I want to talk about what happened in Saturday's game. It was my daughter's birthday party, so after the Yankees went up 5-1, I kind of was a little less attentive to the game that I had been. I saw
For what, 30 seconds?
Well, then it got to 5-3, and then, if there were jams, runners on, I would pop the game back on, but I wasn't fully paying attention to it. And then Aaron Judge gets ejected. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, like, okay, why did Aaron Judge get ejected? The pitch was close. It's not the worst strike three call I've ever seen in my life. It's certainly not the worst strike three call I've ever seen to Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge says something to the umpire, walks away, and does it the right way. Doesn't try to show him off, says it as he's leaving. And I believe what he said was, that's bullshit. You've been bullshit all game. Throws him out, right? It's a quick hook, in my opinion. That's Aaron Judge. It's his first career ejection. He doesn't have a reputation for doing things like that. He's one of the stars of the game. You got to give guys a little bit of leeway, right? But more importantly, and then you go into yesterday's game, Sunday's game, they decide they're going to play through the rain all day. They get to the bottom of the it was the bottom of the eighth, right?
Yeah.
They get to the bottom of the eighth inning. Then they decide they're going to put the tarp on. Then an hour later, they decide they're going to call the game. That's a call made by the umpires. That's not, and nobody else makes that call. The umpires get to decide when the tarp goes on. Obviously, they're receiving information from the grounds crew and blah, 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 but the umpires make that call. It's a truly atrocious call. You made the point to play through it. You're 6 outs away from getting the game over, and now you're going to put the tarp on. And then you know that at that point, you're not going to restart the game. Why you waited an hour is beyond me. But it goes to a larger point here. I think MLB umpiring has been so bad this year. I don't know if it's any worse than it's ever been, but it's gotten to a point where the players union and Manfred himself and the owners, somebody has to step up and fight the umpires union on this.
I think the worst part of the umpires, and we kind of touched on this maybe a couple episodes ago, and again, anyone who's watching us now, just a reminder, we also have audio podcasts. So, if we're talking about episodes in between, you can subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Odyssey, of course, anywhere you get your audio podcasts as well. Please go and subscribe and review the show. so you don't miss content. But we were talking about this. It's not just the bad calls anymore. It's this power trip. It's this invincibility that they feel like they have, right?
That's what it was too with the umpire. And I could look up his name, but I don't care to look it up because he doesn't.
Wasn't it Iasonia?
No, it wasn't. He doesn't deserve my respect for me to look up his name. The guy that threw out Judge, he wanted to make the game about himself. And how do you do? And what better opportunity than throw out one of the biggest stars of the game, the biggest star that's not involved in a betting scandal.
Yeah, look,
that's how you make your name known. And I don't know if it was the day before, a couple days earlier. I don't know if you saw this. There was one strike to go in the game in the 10th inning. I believe it was St. Louis and Chicago. I know it was definitely Chicago. They
had
waited
2 outs.
There was one strike to go in the game.
It's crazy.
They put the tarp on the field, waited 3 hours to restart the game. CB Buckner calls the next pitch that was clearly a ball, a strike to end the game. And I believe it was St. Louis.
It was St. Louis and Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago, the White Sox won the game, and St. Louis had the bases loaded, I believe. So they were in a scoring situation. With one strike to go in the game, they put the tarp on, waited 3 hours, and then CB Buckner decided that he didn't want to be there any longer. Calls the very next pitch, strike 3, that was clearly a ball. Game was over.
Look, call me conspiracy Chrissy, call me whatever you want. Okay, I just like to. I try to make sense of things, and the only way I can make sense of all of this, the constant strike zone showing us how bad the umpires are, clearly the direction given to the umpires to be complete scumbags now, the invincibility they have, it all comes back to one thing for me. The umpires have never been more hated. You have a guy, and I can only speak for myself, I love baseball so much, and I've never been for robot umpires, ever. I always said it would be the worst thing in the world, and all of a sudden now, I'm sitting here going, I can't do this anymore. I can't deal with these umpires anymore.
I don't know if you need robot umpires, but they have tested out the challenge system in the minor leagues. I think you get 1 per inning or 1 per game, whatever it is. Tap your helmet, and then it's quick. It's like instantaneous.
Instant. But my point is, are they priming us? Do they want this? I mean, it's not that difficult to comprehend and to think of them being able to devise a strategy for us to be on board with all of this stuff. The casual fan is one thing, but the people who love the game, I never would have been okay with that, and now I am all of a sudden.
Because that's how bad they've gotten.
I know. But it's also their behavior.
Well, that's what it is. It's the arrogance of it all. They're arrogant in what's the word I'm looking for? They're arrogant in their ineptitude is what the problem is. They're bad at their job, and then they have an air of arrogance about them. And I want to read the super chat from Jeff. The umps have a vendetta against the Yankees. Baboon's fear has made it worse since he gets bullied so easily. The tarp is up to the ump, but calling the game due to weather is up to the home team. Look, I don't think the Yankees or Boone did a good job in defending his captain on Saturday. You have to get thrown out of that game if you're Aaron.
I wasn't able to watch that part of the game. I was at my son's game, and when I heard about the ejection, the first thing I texted you was, Boone better have gotten ejected immediately.
It was pretty quick, too, that he was back in the dugout. I mean, Aaron Boone, who loves to fight with the umpires and loves to chirp with the umpires all day long. I mean, you have to defend your captain in that situation. You have to get thrown out yourself in that spot. Say whatever. I don't know who it was. There was video a couple years ago or whatever it was that went out, and there was a manager that said, you just have to, he's like, I'm not going to insult you, but you have to throw me out of this game. Just so I forget who it was. It might have been a long time ago. But even if you have to say something like that, I'm not going to curse at you, but throw me out of this game or something like that. This way, your players know that you have and that's Aaron Judge, man. Aaron Judge can't get thrown out of the game, and then you go sit your ass back in the dugout. You have to go into the clubhouse with him. And I didn't care that Boone did that. And look, Jeff, if you're claiming that it's up to the Yankees to call the game, I'm not going to challenge you on it because I don't.
I'm looking it up now. It's telling me that the umpires call it.
And that's what I believe, because why wouldn't the Yankees just call the game immediately?
Right, of course they would.
So, so we moved to Saturday and they decide, or Sunday, and they decide to play in that slop. And the Yankees did a good job offensively because Tarek Skubal is a young and up and coming ace. This dude is legit. And the Yankees got him early before he settled in. And that's what you have to do sometimes. Okay. You might not score a ton of runs against an elite level pitcher like Skubal, and you have to take your opportunities when they present them to you. The Yankees scored 2 runs early. One of them was a Judge home run. Skubal settled in. Dude, he was fantastic yesterday. And then Nestor goes 6 1/3, gives up 2 runs, blows the lead because he's a bum, and that's just what he does. So they give up the lead there in the 6th. And then, I mean, what do you want to say about Juan Soto that hasn't been said already? The Yankees get bases loaded in the 7th. He clears them with the double, and then they go home with the victory 5-2, and they get the sweep there. I mean, you can say whatever you want about Juan Soto and how well he's played as a Yankee, and there aren't adjectives in the English language to adequately describe it.
I mean, it's almost to a point where, you know, when he's facing a pretty good fastball pitcher who has his number, which is very rare, but you see him kind of swinging under some high fastballs coming in. Usually it's a guy who's throwing over 100. You almost get this feeling like it's not something you'll ever get used to, Juan Soto striking out in a big spot, because he's just that good. And it's usually the opposite for us the last handful of years, right? It's usually we expect it. And this guy's just so good in such a short amount of time. I've been conditioned with him to expect a base hit almost every time, or at least for him to reach base almost every time he's up. He's just that good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what I've seen from Juan Soto in the past week or so, I've seen him get beat on more fastballs than I had previously. But I don't know. Could that be him trying to do a little too much in situations like that? He knows the team's not scoring. And it's a shame, bro, that he has to feel that pressure when he was brought here not to carry. He wasn't brought here to carry the offense. He really wasn't. That's Aaron Judge's job. Juan Soto was brought here to really finish off to change the way the offense operates, to be another elite player in the offense. But I don't know, maybe he felt a little bit of pressure there. I'm trying to find some stats here.
I'll tell you what, while you're doing that, I'll just say this. I mean, Volpe's struggling, obviously. You know, I know Soto doesn't need to see a lot of pitches before he gets up there, but it does help when the guy in front of you, and even just the guys throughout the lineup, are seeing more pitches. And I feel like Volpe hasn't been doing that lately. It might just be me. Maybe I'm not paying enough attention, but he's certainly not seeing as many pitches as he was, Volpe.
Yeah, so this was after Saturday's game for Rizzo. He, in his last 11 games, he's batting .317 with a 1.022 OPS,
which is unbelievable.
And I don't have
It doesn't feel that way.
No, and I don't have Judge's numbers in front of me, but I saw him yesterday. Over his last 8, they're very Judgian, which
is nice.
So you look at guys like Judge and Stanton and Rizzo, and their numbers. For whatever reason, it doesn't feel like they're where they need to be. But in the short sample sizes recently, they've played well. It does, but I think it's come off that way because of how the team performed in Baltimore. You know, you can't score 6 runs in 4 games and then have people think that you're doing well offensively, you know?
Yeah. And of course, everyone's numbers, including the team numbers, are going to be inflated after Milwaukee. Look, I'm trying to defend this team a little bit now because we've been really harsh on them. I think rightfully so. Again, despite being 10 games over, which has been amazing, there's a lot of flaws in this team that need to be addressed sooner rather than later. So I'm just going to try and defend them here. I mean, the Yankees moved Verdugo fourth, right? And something was working, whether it was Verdugo himself, which he did hit a home run his first game in the 4 slot, or just the dynamic of the lineup. It was clearly something was clicking. That's when they had those 2 games in Milwaukee. And then he goes on paternity leave. Congrats on the baby. But he leaves the team and the offense disappears again. And then he comes back. It was the last game in Baltimore. He came back.
Right. I want to correct something. He actually arrived in Baltimore at 7 a.m., not 1 a.m.
Okay.
But that was Boone's reasoning why he batted 6 to not clean up that day.
Which is odd, but I'm not going to harp on it. And the Yankees still don't show up. And then all of a sudden, look, again, some things just can't be explained, but he goes back to the 4 spot and the offense is clicking a little more again. So maybe something's to be said about the way it changes the dynamic of this lineup. I don't know, but I like what I'm seeing. And, you know, we talked a couple episodes ago about the Yankees needing to experiment a little bit to get things going. I think this was a good experiment that clearly something has worked. So stick with it.
Yeah, and David Miser says we expect too much from them on every game. We need to chill. Remember, Teixeira always had bad Aprils into early Mays. And look, but and you know what? But here's where I'm at. The Yankees, and I say this all the time, the Yankees have to win this year. So I think, and especially coming on, and when Teixeira was here, right? Either he was just got here or he had come off of a World Series in the first year. So maybe you gave him a little bit more grace. This team hasn't won in 15 years now. And you can be looking at it, and we say this all the time. I don't personally think it's going to happen. You could be looking at a situation where we're one and done in Juan Soto. So you have to do everything in your power to win as many games as you can when they're available to be won. This way it makes your path in October easier. They have to win the World Series this year. Anything less is going to be a failure. Even if they get there and play a hard-fought series, will you live with it? Yeah, I'm sure you'd live with it. But anything short of them being one of the final 2 teams standing this year in a situation where you might not have Juan Soto in 2025, you didn't do your job. So I don't think we're expecting too much from them. You have Aaron Judge, you have Juan Soto, you have Giancarlo Stanton, you have, and Gerrit Cole hasn't pitched yet, but you have Gerrit Cole, you have all these names and the money that was put into this team. I mean, are we expecting too much, or are we expecting what we should expect?
Obviously, my computer just fucking froze, but I'll say this. To me, for the first time, I'm not just looking at it as it's May, what is it? May 7th, 6th? It's not just May 6th to me, man. It's like May 6th plus 4 years. Because I'm looking at this from a broader standpoint now. How long has it been? I forget what the actual stat is, where this team has been a 500 ball club. Like this team, whether it feels this way or not, even outside of last year.
Well, 1992 was last year. They didn't finish at 500.
No. I'm saying before last year, if you take the games over however many games, this has been a 500 ball club.
Yeah, the line of demarcation is somewhere in 2022. I don't know when.
Right. So my point is, fine, you're 100% right in a sense of it could be the end of May and this fucking offense has caught fire. And we're sitting here saying, holy shit, we're finally getting what we need. And then a couple months from then, maybe they're slumping a little, but overall, maybe this lineup clicks. Yeah, you're right. It's only April. My biggest problem is that this has been going on for too long now. So for me, it doesn't just feel like it's May 6th. It feels like May 6th plus the last year and a half of mediocre baseball. And this team this year cannot have that. The stakes are very, very high right now. They just can't have mediocrity anymore.
Yeah, so the Yankees are winning because of their pitching, as they've, and that's what carried them last year. Even though they were an 82 win team, that's what carried them. Their bullpen ERA is, I believe, second in baseball. I believe they're top 3 in overall ERA. So, I mean, if you look at the names in that bullpen, though, outside of Clay Holmes, you really trust anybody to get you a big out?
Right now, no. But you know what? This pitching has been so good, and I know Matt Blake has fumbled on a couple guys, most namely Jordan Montgomery. You know, he left here and talked about how the Yankees didn't want him throwing a certain pitch. I forget what it was. And then all of a sudden he's throwing it again, and he's extremely successful. And you could sit here and you could rip Matt Blake for it, rightfully so. But overall,
I think his body of work way outweighs what
absolutely
complaints Jordan Montgomery might have.
Yeah, and that's fine. But you're right. Overall, I think Matt Blake has just done such a good job with this pitching staff, because we talk about what we could get out of these guys. And I think over the last 2 years, the pitching has exceeded really what you would expect overall. The only real issue I have with this pitching staff, at least, you know, the starting pitching, is the depth. I mean, and they have gotten better over the last week or so. But really, you're right. The bullpen, you've even gotten to a point where Ian Hamilton makes you a little nervous. But overall, I'm not too concerned right now. This team's finding...
That was you?
No, I think it was Pete. Overall, this team is finding ways to win, obviously, even, you know, despite losing 3 out of 4 in Baltimore, they've bounced back to now hit a new high water mark in 10 games over. It's all you can really ask for right now. And I think, obviously, the pitching, starting and bullpen has been a bright spot.
The Yankees did a good job this weekend, because in years previous, they would have lost on Friday, maybe dropped another one of these games here, and then you could have been looking at a tailspin. They came out, they did what they needed to do to win 3 games. This offense has to get really clicking on a consistent basis. They scored 12 runs in 3 games, which is okay. It's better than what they did in Baltimore. You like to see them be averaging like 5.5 runs a game. That's how you know that they're really doing what they need to do. But the pitching is keeping them in most games. I mean, there's only been 1, 2, maybe 3 starts where you can really sit there and, regardless of what the offense did, say the Yankees had no shot tonight because of their starting pitching. And that's, you know, a pretty good scenario when they played, what, like 30-something games already this year?
Yeah. And I think that's just the main feel I have right now. I was really critical of them after the Baltimore series, because it just feels like we're getting the same bullshit over and over again.
Well,
but you know what?
Been critical of them after Baltimore.
Absolutely. But you know what? If I'm going to be critical, I also have to give credit. And the difference from this year to last year so far, even through their offensive struggles.
Yankees have played 36 games this year.
Okay. Yeah, they're 23-13. Even through the offensive struggles, the one thing that has been different so far from last year is minimizing the damage. You know, this team loses 3 out of 4 in Baltimore, and I feel like you said last year, they find a way to drop 2 out of the 3 against Detroit, and now we're looking at a huge fucking uphill battle at that point, with Houston coming in and whatnot. This team came back and bounced back and swept against a team who's really not, I mean, what'd they come in with, 18 wins? That was like the most they've had in Detroit since 84, I think. Through that many games, 18 wins. I mean, we're looking at not a terrible team with some good pitching. So, you know, they got the job done, and last year maybe you're right. Maybe that's
Detroit came in 18-13. They have really good starting pitching. So, I mean, this is not your typical Tigers team where it was a pushover for the Yankees to beat them. But if you look at the starting pitching overall, Stroman struggled there in the sixth, like we said earlier. Just it's frustrating to watch him sometimes because he can be so pinpoint, so on, and then he just he just doesn't trust his stuff enough, and that's my opinion. I could be wrong. He just doesn't trust his stuff enough, or he doesn't want to come anywhere near the plate. And in the situation that he was in on Friday night, you can't be throwing balls in the dirt when the bases are loaded or when there's runners at first and second. You have to look, man. You lead Major League Baseball in ground ball rate. You got to pitch to contact there, and that's why Boone left him in. So, and then Schmidt for the second game in a row gives up a leadoff home run. He didn't really settle in as well. He gave up another couple of runs, but that's going to be Schmidt. But that's another start there where Schmidt allows 3 runs or fewer. I mean, there's nobody and I forget who the other person is. It's him and Gerrit Cole and this other person. I don't always forget the other guy. They're the 3 guys that lead Major League Baseball in starts with 3 runs or less since 2023.
Which is unbelievable. I mean, I know he's been good, but that's just unbelievable to me. Like, I never would have expected that.
And then yesterday, man, like, look, Nestor's a bum. We all know this, but he's great. I mean, he was great yesterday. You can't say anything negative about Nestor Cortez yesterday. Pitched into the 7th. He had the strikeout pitch working. He had 9 strikeouts. And what I liked a lot about Nestor is the gimmicky stuff was kept to a minimum. He felt in control of the game. He felt good about his stuff. He was attacking hitters. The game got away from him there a little bit in the 7th inning, gave up a couple of runs. The offense picked him up there. But for the most part, Nestor Cortez has done his job this year. My concern with Nestor Cortez is I don't know how long he can keep this up. He had that one big year in 2022 where he threw like 150 innings or whatever it was, and he was hurt in that Houston series, and then he was hurt pretty much all of last year. So what does he have in him this year? That's going to be an issue too. That's what the Yankees really have to look at going forward. Carlos Rodon didn't hit 100 innings last year. What's he got in him this year? Clark Schmidt, probably the most capable of giving you those innings that you need. You got Marcus Stroman, who's pitched around 130 the last 2 years. Is he going to be able to get you to 150, 155? Heel, we know Heel's going to be capped at some point. When is it? The Yankees are going to tell you that there's no number. There's a number.
Who has just been, I mean, is this kid going to put it all together? Honest opinion from you. Does Luis Heel put it all together this year? Even if he's capped off and even if he doesn't get to really go the distance here, does he find a way to put it all together? Because I'm starting to see it a little bit.
This is from FL Driver. He says, could part of the issue with Stroman being not having confidence in her offense seems to be trying to be too perfect? Look, obviously that's something that goes through a pitcher's mind. The team just came off 4 games where they didn't score. He's in the 6th where they haven't scored yet. Could he be trying to be too fine? Certainly possible. But I mean, we've also seen Stroman not want to pitch to contact in certain situations this year. I would like to see him be, and I know he doesn't have the stuff. He doesn't have Gerrit Cole stuff where he can throw 99 down the middle and challenge somebody, but you also have to understand the situation of the game. Don't walk, you don't walk somebody with the bases loaded. Be a little bit more aggressive in that situation. If you have a batter with a base open, you don't want to pitch to him, fine. Everybody knows that's okay. But you can't lose a guy that you were up 0-2, 1-2 on with just pitches that are non-competitive, which he was in that 6th inning.
I always go back to, and I'm not comparing the 2 pitchers by any means. I don't compare many to CC Sabathia, but I always go back to him when it comes to this, because one thing CC Sabathia was so great at was pitching to the game. And you can argue that his career ERA was inflated a bit because he would always do that.
CC pitched to the scoreboard.
Exactly. If CC had an 8-0 game in the 5th inning, he's not going out there trying to be cute. He's challenging you. He's willing to give up a home run or a base hit or a double just to challenge you and not have to get cute, and that's something he was always great at. And I think it definitely could have to do with, Stroman not having confidence in the offense. But I think Stroman's been this pitcher for a few years now where he nibbles too much, and he's not a guy who. Again, I'll go back to Gerrit Cole. Like when Gerrit Cole doesn't nibble because he's an artist and he paints and he knows where to paint. And it's like Stroman's almost there, but it looks like nibbling because he's not hitting his where he truly wants to be, and he does have to have just more confidence in his stuff.
Yeah, and Gerrit Cole threw off a mound on Saturday, 15 pitches. It wasn't max effort. I think he said that he was at between 89 and 91 with the fastball. He said he felt good. Didn't hear anything yesterday. Yanks are off today, so I guess tomorrow would kind of be when Boone gives the update. That's a big first step there, and getting him on the mound, throwing 15 pitches. Look, do I think Cole's going to be back in a month? Probably not. But as long as he continues to say that he feels good, and there's no setbacks, there's no reason why we shouldn't be optimistic that mid to late June he's on the mound. I mean, selfishly, I want him on the mound June 5th, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're ways away from seeing him here on the mound anytime soon. But and Hirsch in the chat said Dominguez and Cole are going to be better than any trade deadline acquisitions. Which, look, we all love Hirsch, but please don't
give the Yankees fuel.
Please don't start that narrative.
Because
what if I told you that I could get the reigning AL Cy Young Award winner at the trade deadline? Would you take it? Because that's what the Yankees are going to do or say. So even if Cole comes back, I think the Yankees need starting pitching because to what we were speaking about earlier, where are the innings coming from?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing
look, sorry to cut you off, but Gerrit Cole comes back. We're going to be looking at a situation where the Yankees are going to be hesitant, at least through his first handful of starts, to let him loose.
Yeah. And for me, at least if I'm the Yankees right now, I'm saying to myself, if Gerrit Cole's not injured and he starts this season, how much different is my record? And I really can't sit here and say that it's much different than it is now.
It's crazy to say that you can't pinpoint one time. Like we said, there's maybe 2 or 3 starts where the starter kind of took the Yankees out of the game. But you can't sit there and say that the Yankees haven't won games because Gerrit Cole is not pitching, which is insane when you have the best pitcher in baseball not pitch for 5 weeks.
Right, and I think as long as that's true, the Yankees aren't going to rush him back, and that's fine. But they also have to be very mindful of what you just talked about, and that's the innings. And okay, I'm all for not rushing him back, but I'm also not for taking our time and procrastinating here. Like there still has to be a little urgency as long as he's feeling okay to keep him progressing where he should be and not delaying this more than it needs to be, because
I don't think it is being delayed more.
No, absolutely not. I agree. All I'm saying is we know the Yankees give, when can he technically come back? End of May?
May 28th.
Right. So the doctor said it was 8 to 12 weeks when we first heard it. So, all I'm saying is don't just push it to the fucking All-Star break just because you can. We still need him back when he's ready to come back, because you're right. There's going to be a progression. There's going to be a ramp up still. And we can't kill this fucking bullpen. I mean, we need another horse in there.
Well, David Miser says, take your early pick for a pitcher or hitter at the deadline, or trade Glaber when DJ comes back. Look, you guys got to stop with the trade Glaber's comments. What is he worth right now?
Yeah, that ship has sailed.
The guy's been one of the worst players in baseball so far this year. You're not going to get anything for him at this point in time. You're better off just seeing if he can get hot for 6 or 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And if your reasoning is, I have DJ LeMahieu, what is giving you the optimism to think DJ LeMahieu is going to stay in the lineup for more than 6 or 8 days?
Agreed.
So Look, I'm not Glaber's biggest fan. Everybody knows that. I would have traded him 2 years ago when we had a potential deal for Pablo Lopez on the table. But right now, what sense does it make to trade Glaber Torres? You're not going to get, unless some team is so desperate. And how desperate would you have to be to want Glaber Torres as he is right now?
Pretty desperate.
What are you going to get, really? Him on a walk year? You're going to get a project reliever, probably?
You're getting a rental who sucks right now. Pretty bad.
So, I mean, what would I take? I think, I don't know, dude. What would, if you had a choice that you could only make one major deal? I honestly, I don't know. It'd have to be pitching for me.
It'd have to be pitching for me too, because I got to be honest with you. If you're telling me Dominguez is coming back this year, I think with the guys in this lineup right now, an upgrade like Dominguez, if he can come back and give me that energy that he brought last year, to me, it's got to be pitching at that point.
Because I don't think there's anybody the Yankees have in the system right now that can give them the impact that Dominguez or possibly Spencer
Right.
Jones can give them.
Right,
So
exactly.
that would be where I'm at.
I agree.
So the Yankees, coming off a sweep of the Detroit Tigers, are facing the only other team they swept this year. The Houston Astros are coming to the Bronx.
This is their last series, right, with them?
That is correct.
Wow.
Yeah, like I said, man, I'm not in love with the new scheduling where they have to
No,
play
it's
everybody.
terrible. And then they don't play the Red Sox till June? Is it like June 6th or something? It's fucking ridiculous.
This could be an interesting pitching matchup on Tuesday night. Verlander is going to take the ball against Luis Heel for the Yankees.
I think the Yankees win that game, and I think he'll outduels Verlander.
And then you got some guy with an Italian last name and an 8-year array pitching against Carlos Rodon. Look, Carlos, this is a big game for Carlos Rodon.
Yeah, it is. Maybe the biggest statement game of his very, very small sample size of a Yankee career that he has.
So the first two games against Houston are at 7:05, and then the Thursday getaway day, because the Yankees are going to hit the road after, is at MLB has it listed at 5:05 on Thursday. Very interesting start time where Marcus Stroman will take the ball. I feel like Marcus Stroman has ended like every single
Series.
homestand the Yankees have had this year.
Yeah,
So
I think you might be right.
the Yankees just have to keep, the Yankees are 10 over, the Astros are 10 under. Just keep kicking the Astros further down the hill, man. In a perfect world, you want to slay the dragon in the postseason, but also why not make it so the dragon doesn't get to the postseason if you can control it, right?
I like that.
So the Yankees will be home this week to take on the Houston Astros, and like I said, it's going to be a. I don't. Do you feel? And we'll end it on this. I want to say two things. One, in that set, I missed it when we talked about the game on Sunday. John Birdie's back, leads off the seventh inning with a hit.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful hit and run with Trevino to set that whole inning up.
Yep.
And this is what we're talking about all the time. Sometimes you just got to make things happen. You know your team's struggling to score runs. Make something happen in that situation. They did beautifully. The Yankees ended up putting up 3 thanks to Soto there. And also, how big of a statement series is it? Obviously, you don't want to lose it. But is this still a big, like, opening series? That was a big statement series for the Yankees. Is this as big of a statement series for the Yankees now that Houston has kind of taken a big step back here throughout the first part of the season?
No, I don't. I'll say this. It is still a big statement because you don't want to sweep 4 games in Houston and then lose the series at home. You can't let that happen. But for me, what's even bigger about this is that it's almost not even about the Astros right now for me. They've done themselves enough damage where, yeah, it's great that it's the Astros if they can beat up on them. But like, the Yankees are making statements more for themselves at this point. I don't care who the opponent is these next 3 games. As you know, yeah, again, great that it's the Astros. I'm excited. I love watching them play the Astros. I love when they beat the Astros. But for me, the bigger statement is we just swept the Tigers. Let's keep our foot on the pedals, like you just said, and keep going. And if as a consequence of that, it's also knocking down the Astros, that's even better. But for me, the bigger statement is let's not stop. Let's just keep fucking taking this thing home.
Yeah, okay. That's what you got to do. And what else you have to do here is subscribe to the NYYST podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We do have some audio-only shows that are going to be coming up throughout the course of the season. So if you're subscribed to your favorite podcast platform, you won't miss anything. And also subscribe to the NYYU on YouTube. Smack the like to this video while you're still in the chat here. And don't miss NYYU Day 2, September 14th against the Red Sox in right field at Yankee Stadium. Also, make sure you tell everybody we are the official Yankees podcast of Odyssey. We want to thank everybody that's been in the chat tonight. We want to thank everybody for their continued support of NYYU and the NYYST podcast. Thank you for listening and watching episode 386. Chris, say goodbye.
Peace.
Can't make a promise, but I do my best. 25 sitting on 25 racks. Just got started, no, we ain't done yet. Bought a new crib, that's a goddamn flex. Sign that check. Told them last year that I been up next. Can't take calls, but I send that text.